Hey there, welcome back to my Cave of Cool Books. My name is Jeff. Now in a previous video I talked about my Edgar Rice Burroughs collection, and today I'd like to talk a little bit about my science fiction collection. Now it's pretty small, but I think fairly decent. A lot of booktubers out there, especially those specializing in science fiction, have a vast, much larger collection than I do of that genre, but I think mine is a good starter, and I'm going to continue to grow it in the future. So let's take a little closer look. Okay, I'm going to try something a little different than my Burroughs bookshelf tour, which took way too long to go through. I'm going to try to just shuffle through these pretty quickly and with just some brief comments as I go through. A couple of these science fiction paperback series I've already talked about in previous videos, including the Expendables series. Again, I'll just run through those very quickly. Number 1, The Death Worms of Kratos. Number 2, The Rings of Tantalus, which I read last month for the umpteenth time. The War Games of Zelos, and The Venom of Argus. Now, Richard Avery was a pen name for the SF writer Edmund Cooper. These are quite a good deal of fun. I also talked in my very first video for this channel. I talked about the Professor Jameson series of novels, series of story collections. So I won't talk too much about those now. The Planet of the Double Sun was the first Ace book that was put out. The Sunless World, Space War, Twin Worlds, and Doomsday on Agiat. So for more discussion about those particular books, please check out the earlier videos there. Okay, I have some more interesting ones here. Speaking of another great, very well liked Golden Age science fiction writer, Edmond Hamilton, the World Wrecker as he was sometimes called. I have this cool collection of novellas, I guess, or stories, Crashing Suns. Now, Tim at Secret Fire Books reviewed this one not so long ago and was disheartened to learn that they were basically the same story structure in each one. So I haven't read all of these, so I just think this cover is amazing. So I'm glad to have this collection. And I will try these myself and see if it bothers me quite as much as it did Tim. I also have City at World's End, which is a Del Rey book, a novel by Edmond Hamilton. And how I was first introduced to Edmond Hamilton was through his series of 60s novels, 3 novels, the Star Wolf Saga. This is a really cool series. A little bit of maybe inspired by Hamilton's wife, Lee Brackett's Eric John Stark character. Morgan Chain is the hero, the Star Wolf of the title, and he was raised on a planet of really high gravity, so he's extra strong, but he was a human, and so he's kind of not in either world. The people from his home world look down on him, at his adopted world, look down on him for not being one of them and not as tough as them, a race of spacefaring pirates. And the humans also look at him askance because he's one of those space pirates originally, and he's also pretty dangerous and super strong. So he joins up with a team of mercenaries, and they go and do some pretty exciting and strange adventures on different planets. So there are 3 novels in this: The Weapon from Beyond, The Closed Worlds, and World of the Star Wolves. Highly recommend either picking these up individually, and I believe I do have The Closed Worlds in an individual copy back in storage in the United States, but this is a good and pretty easy to find collection of all 3 of the novels together. So that's my Edmond Hamilton, other than I have one of the Ballantine best of his stories. I have a couple of John Wyndham's, the classic British SF writer. Of course, everyone should be familiar with at least the title, The Day of the Triffids. Excellent book. I also have a rather battered Penguin copy of The Trouble with Lichen. And I have some others somewhere, but I haven't been able to dig them up at the moment, or I don't have them here with me. All right, I also have from Frederick Pohl and Jack Williamson, Undersea Fleet. Now I have this trilogy, I just don't have the other two, Undersea City and Undersea Quest. I don't have them with me here in Japan. But this one is my favorite of those three. And it's a cool undersea mystery sci-fi novel. And of course, it's pretty intriguing to me. It was as a young man to see a woman underwater riding a plesiosaurus around this naval vessel. This is told from the point of view of a young Naval Academy cadet Jim Eden is the character's name. And he has some friends, including a mysterious guy named David Kraken. Very cool novel. I recommend check that out. The whole trilogy is interesting. And I believe written in the 50s, pretty sure. Yeah, 1956 for this one. All right. What else we got here? We got some Heinlein. I don't have a complete collection of Heinlein, and it's a real grab bag of editions, but I have a couple of his later more adult-focused novels, and I have particular fondness for Heinlein's juvenile science fiction novels. So I have Red Planet, and these aren't going to be in order of publication or anything. The Rolling Stones. Now there's a sticker on there I need to get rid of. Time for the Stars. The Star Beast. Tunnel in the Sky. And of course, Starship Troopers. Try not to cover the title there. Starship Troopers. And The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. I need to pick up some more Heinlein, of course, of his maybe more seminal works. I'm not too interested in his later novels that were getting a little stranger and stranger increasingly. I have some, not all of my collection, excuse me, but I do have some, especially some I picked up last summer from a used bookstore. Some of E. Doc Smith's Skylark series. We got Skylark of Space, the first one. That's a very cool edition. I like this. It's in pretty good shape too. This is Pyramid Books. The nice cover there. Then I have some Popular Library ones. I have Skylark Duquesne. Duquesne, I believe is how it's pronounced. This might be the last one. I might not have these in order either. Sorry. Skylark 3. And then the only of his Lensman books that I have with me here, I have a couple more, I'm sure. I'm sure I have the first Lensman book, but I have Second Stage Lensman, part of his Lensman series. Again, this is early space opera type stuff, but looks interesting. Want to try that at some stage. Hal Clement, I haven't read these yet, but I'm hoping to. I have Mission of Gravity, kind of a well-known early hard SF writer. Cycle of Fire, and Close to Critical. So I look forward to trying to tackle those at some point. I have a couple of Arthur C. Clarke's. I have The Deep Range, which I know is not a favorite among a lot of science fiction fans, but I'm really big and always have been into underwater exploration and undersea adventure novels and things. So the fact that had a giant squid on the cover and someone poking around in a small mini sub exploring the deep range was irresistible to me. So I'll see if I can, if I like this more than some of the other reviewers that I've seen out there. I also have A Fall of Moon Dust by Clarke. Those are all I have of Clarke, I believe. Last year, I picked up several of these Lester Del Rey books from, of course, Del Rey, most of them. The Mysterious Planet. I think most of these are juveniles of a sort. I don't think this one is, though. Police Your Planet. Attack from Atlantis. That's a pretty cool cover. I like the kind of diagonal font and title there. And Outpost of Jupiter. So I haven't read much Del Rey, although I know he's very influential as an editor. Got a couple Gordon R. Dicksons, which I also picked up fairly recently, or actually maybe several years ago, but in pretty good shape. Gordon R. Dickson. I got this one, you can tell from the sticker, ABC Books. This was a really great bookstore, used bookstore in my hometown back in Washington State, that sadly she closed up shop, sold off a lot of her collection, and the people she sold it to who took over her store location got rid of most of her cool stuff, unfortunately. I wish I could have been there to have picked up more good stuff before when she was clearing out. And Gordon Dickson's Sci-Fi Best, or SF Best, sorry. This is a collection of his stories. And again, this is a pretty nice, this is a Dell book, and it's in pretty good shape. I have a terrific series. I believe Richard Rempel at Vintage SF checked out at least this first book by the Canadian author Sterling Lanier. I believe it's Lanier, could be Lanier. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but for a long time I've been a fan of his Hero series, Hero's Journey. Some people pronounce it Hero. I think it's a play on words, so to myself I always pronounce it as Hero. Pure Hero. This is a really cool post-apocalyptic science fiction fantasy sort of book with all sorts of mutated creatures. Hero is a kind of part of a Jesuit sect that survived, and he's going out exploring. He's a real outdoorsman, and also kind of has some telekinetics powers, and he communicates with this bear who becomes his good friend, Gorn. He also can communicate with the giant moose that he rides around. Clute is his name. Very, very cool series. Sadly, Mr. Lanier never completed the trilogy. He did write a sequel, which is also excellent, The Unforsaken Hero. And this one is just terrific, too, with all sorts of interesting races. It's got one of those wonderful, of course, it's got a map in the front, which I always like, and it's got a glossary of terms that goes through all the different kind of unique mutated creatures and areas, etc. Highly, highly recommend these, but a slight cliffhanger at the end of this one, and unfortunately he never got back to it and finished it. Rumor was he was working on it, but never did get it out. He did write some more stuff, not a lot, but almost all of it's pretty high quality. I also have his one-off SF novel here, as far as more of a space opera novel, Menace Under Mars Wood, which is quite interesting as well. It's not in my paperbacks, but I have somewhere here, where did I put that? Here. One of Lanier's two collections of Brigadier Fellows stories. Now, these are kind of inspired, I guess, by the Jorkins Tales by Lord Dunsany, and also Tales from I believe it's White Hart by Arthur C. Clarke. Basically club stories, but these are, I think, the best of those three writers. These are really spectacular fantasy horror stories. And I have another version, the second one, The Curious Exploits, I believe, or of Brigadier Fellows on Kindle. Not the greatest version, sadly, but those are really hard to find in actual physical book form. Let's see, I have one Anne McCaffrey. Got to give her more of a try, but being a dinosaur fan, like many people, I got this one years ago and have not quite made my way all the way through it yet. But this is Dinosaur Planet, about a exploration team that lands on a planet full of, you guessed it, dinosaurs. Anyway, so I also have a series of or at least some of the series of books featuring the Hospital Station series by James White, starting with a novel, Star Surgeon. I believe this was published by, this is an early Bantam, doesn't have the same livery as a lot of the Bantams I'm more familiar with, but this was published in 1963. I have a couple others of his from Del Rey, Hospital Station, and Sector General. Now, these are really fun stories about a group of humans, mostly on this giant space hospital, but they have some other recurring alien race characters, and they face some medical conundrum where they have to try to assist ailing beings from around the universe and different planets. That's quite a fun series. And Murray Leinster also wrote a similar thing, but more about focusing on one doctor and his pet monkey Murgatroyd. This is the Med series, and this is a cool collection that was published by Ace Science Fiction in 1983. And this has basically, I believe, three stories, sorry. So this is The Mutant Weapon, published in 1959 originally, SOS from Three Worlds, and This World is Taboo. That's a very fun series. Late 50s, early 60s. Again, a medical space subgenre there. I have a few more Murray Leinster titles, including a hardback collection, which is very cool. But The Time Tunnel, now, as far as I can tell, this is no relation to the Irwin Allen TV series from the 60s, but it has a similar font, so maybe they're trying to cash in on that. But as far as I can tell, it's a standalone. And then a very cool little collection of his works, Planets of Adventure. And this has one of my all-time, his exploration team stories, which are really great. This has 4 of them, but it doesn't have exploration team itself, which to get that I had to get another collection. First Contacts, The Essential Murray Leinster. And this one has a whole bunch of stories. I also have a Murray Leinster Valentine Books Best of collection, which I'll show in a moment. Let's race through a few others of these. A couple of Lee Brackett's The Coming of the Terrans, and The Starman of Leardis. Sorry, The Starmen of Leardis. Well, as this video is going a little long, I've decided I'm going to split it in 2 parts. So this ends the first part, and I will see you back next video for the second part, where I'll go through the rest of my vintage sci-fi paperback collection. So until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.